Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Better Bookkeeper Show. I'm your host, Lynn Talbot, and today we're diving into a topic that hits home for many bookkeepers and entrepreneurs. It's finding your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? If you've ever thought of, now, why did I start this business? Or am I supposed to be working this hard? I don't understand what happened. Or you're wondering how to get your motivation back. You're not alone. Because we bookkeepers tend to say things like, oh, I'm just a bookkeeper, or I just want to help people. I don't stop to think, well, what's in it for me? Why am I really doing what I'm doing? So for my listeners right now, stop and think of your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Where are you going to be in 10 years? Do you know what your purpose is in life? Or are you just too busy right now to think about it? And I understand those busy years when you've got children and working and meals to prepare. Those busy years just seem like you just get on a little hamster wheel and you can't get off of it. But when I ask these questions, do you get a little uncomfortable feeling inside? Well, my guest today is Joe Denner. He knows this journey very well. So Joe started his career out in accounting and finance. But over time, he realized that numbers alone weren't enough. He's now a leadership coach and trainer, and he helps small business owners and executives sort of reconnect with their purpose in life. So Joe's motto is, when you lose your why, you lose your way. And today he's going to help us find it again. Welcome to the show, Joe, and start out by telling us a little bit about your background and the inspiration behind your decision to leave accounting.
Yeah, well, thanks, Lynn. It's great to be with you. I'm grateful to be here and to be able to share on this topic because it means a lot to me. But I actually had a great accounting career. Loved what I was doing. I still love numbers, and yet I got to a point where I just, as a CFO of the company that I was working at, I just stuck my nose in everything. And I really felt like to be a great CFO, I needed to understand the business. And the more I dove in and started understanding the business, the more excited I got about learning about the business and about how it worked and how all these things played out. And so eventually I approached the president of the company and I told him that I wanted his job someday. And I thought, I really would love to broaden my experience, broaden my understanding. And that's when I got put in the chief operating officer position, and all of a sudden I went from managing 3 people to 120 people, and I was managing managers and leaders. And I thought, if I'm going to do this well, I need to figure out how to be a great manager. And so I started reading books, and I started going to conferences, and I started learning. And the more I dug into it, the more I realized how much I loved working with people, developing people, growing people. And that's where the light bulb started to go on. And so eventually, my wife and I decided that I was going to start my own business, and didn't really know what that was going to look like for sure, but wound up discovering this profession of coaching. And but that's how it happened. I just really sensed that there was something more exciting for me than just crunching numbers. And by the way, when I got into the COO role, I did plenty of number crunching. I did plenty of spreadsheets and reports and all that kind of thing. But this aspect of working with and developing people really, really excited me. And I started to get a sense that that's part of what was more for me.
Yeah, so I guess when was it you realized that leadership and purpose were sort of the missing pieces for you and could perhaps be for other people as well?
Yeah, it took a while. It took a few years, and I would say that sense probably grew over time as well. I mean, certainly, we made a decision. Hey, I'm going to become a professional coach. I'm going to get into leadership coaching is going to be my particular bent, because I had done so much reading and so much studying and so much kind of personal development around becoming a better leader. But the real sense of like that's my calling probably took a few years as I started working with leaders and my passion for helping them, because I began to encounter a lot of business owners who were just stuck in the mud, or they were stuck in the grind of running their business. And they'd gotten into this business because they loved their trade, they loved their craft. But now they were running a business and now they were managing people, and it wasn't necessarily as fun anymore because they had gotten a little further away. And so I began to notice that people had become disconnected from why they had started doing this in the first place and what it was really all about for them. And so I also went through a process in my coach training that helped me learn how to define my own life purpose. And so all of this stuff began to kind of come together for me. And I realized this is what I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about helping other people connect with why they're here on this planet, what they've been put here to do. And that really energized me.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I knew I'd found it.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you had sort of a mindset shift. And we talk a lot about a mindset shift in our bookkeepers training circle. We encourage our bookkeeping clients to be present every day and not to get their mind stuck in a rut. And it's so easy when you're doing bookkeeping to just log in, do this client, do this client, do this client. And it's very task oriented, very, very focused on doing, and sort of being an operator every day. And I think what happens too, I think it happens in all entrepreneurship, like you say, but especially for bookkeepers, they just get stuck in the rut and they just turn on the computer and they do their thing and they forget about their life. It's like it's no fun anymore. Their daily tasks just become who they are. Their daily task, that's what I do. I'm
Yeah.
just good at bookkeeping. And I'll hear them say, I'm just a bookkeeper. I mean, in a positive way, but not in a way that says, I love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
How do you think that mindset shift, changed for you from like when you were in accounting, where you were managing other people's money and other people's business to like leading people now on how to find their way?
Yeah. Well, I think, and by the way, I agree with you, and I'm excited to hear that that's a lot of what you talk about because as a coach, one of the things we know and have been trained on is that mindset and your perspective is massive. It's so causative in the way that you live your life, do what you do,
It's
and all of that. So
everything.
it is. It really is. I mean, your brain is the centerpiece of all that's going on in your life. It's driving a lot. And so I think the shift for me, one of the things that happened to me was we had hired a management psychologist to come in and do some work with our company when I was the CEO, or no, I was the CFO at the time. And we went through assessments and we went through training and we went through a number of different things with him in terms of leadership and team building. And I remember him saying to me, he said, Joe, I think you're the first CFO that I've ever met who actually likes people. and and I thought, and it really kind of struck me. I thought, I do. I mean, I'm an introvert, and so I don't love being in big crowds of people, and I'm not necessarily super outgoing, but I do really like people and I care about people and I care about where they're at and what they're doing and how they're being successful. And that shift for me really did happen when I moved from the CFO role to the COO role, because all of a sudden my world changed from this small group of people to, I mean, I can't even remember the number, how much you'd have to multiply three to get to 120, but it was such a huge shift for me. And all of a sudden I had 10 managers working for me. And I think the other thing that struck me and I don't want to say weighed on me in a negative way, but was this thing that I felt, this stewardship that I felt was I've got these 10 people that are looking to me for leadership and they want to grow in their careers and they want to become more than they are today. And it's my responsibility to help them get there. And that shift was probably a big part of where I ultimately wound up and connecting with working with people on their development because I just enjoyed it so much when I was working with my own team.
Yes, I love that you said that because we do talk a lot about leadership in our bookkeepers training circle and just trying to teach bookkeepers how to be an entrepreneur to move beyond the day to day, moving from an operator to a business owner can be very hard for a lot of bookkeepers because they haven't been exposed to being a leader. They maybe haven't had, leadership training. And we talk about how, what a big responsibility is that first time they hire somebody,
Yeah.
because a lot of times bookkeepers will be like, well, I don't want to hire anybody because I don't know how to supervise somebody, or they assume that the person just is going to work in their own little box and do the clients, and there's not going to be, much interaction or growth. And when you change your mindset, like these, the people I'm hiring, I want to be successful. So in my business, when I would hire somebody, I never got upset if they left and took a higher paying job somewhere or something like that. But most of my employees stayed because we worked together to grow as a team. And now
Yeah.
almost all of my past employees have their own bookkeeping company. I just
Oh,
set
that's
them up
great.
and we work together. And so looking back, I didn't realize I was doing that, helping them grow to be their own leader. And now they look to me to help them do that. But um, talking about like why your why matters, and what happens when you lose your purpose, your not only your purpose for your business, but your purpose in life as well. And if I'm being honest, I will look back when I started my bookkeeping company. Of course, I'm much older and wiser now, as some of us are. But looking back and kind of seeing far, um, I would have to say, if you were to ask me, well, Len, what is your why? Why did you start your business? I was just helping people. I was volunteering at my kids' school and whatever random, PTA or whatever needed bookkeeping. I learned it on my own and just happened to do it. And then people kept coming and coming and coming. And I was
Yeah.
sort of an accidental bookkeeping firm owner because I really was just helping people. I didn't really go set out to run
Yeah.
and scale and build $1 million business. But when I had the mindset shift that said, I can do this, like somebody believed in me, I can do this, that really did help to go far. But I know a lot of my bookkeeping clients, if I were to ask them today, or maybe they're listening to us now, and I would say, "Hey, what is your why? Why are you doing this?" I would hear things like, "Well, I just want to make some extra money, like while my kids are in school. I just want to work from home, and I want to get kind of back in the business world and feel, I don't know, connected or feel valued or worthy."
Yeah.
Because maybe they had a career before they had children and they put it on hold. Total true life story, my life story as well. And
Yeah.
so, I would hear things like that. But then, how do they move beyond, I just want to make a little extra money, to, does what you're saying now relate to your purpose in life? I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
saying that right, but
Yeah.
like I always felt like I had something to give, but I struggled to find out what that was. And I just sort of became a bookkeeping firm owner by accident. But I think others might just say, I just want something to do when my kids are in school. But when we say, you lose your why, you lose your way, tell us, talk to our listeners about that phrase and how powerful that is.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think first of all, I don't think a lot of people even think about this. I think that this is not something, I mean, we don't teach our kids in school to do this. I mean, I've taught my kids to think this way because that's how I've learned to think. But I would say the vast majority of people that grow up don't grow up with anybody telling them or even asking the question, what is your purpose? Why are you here on this planet? What does God put you here to do? Like, what's that about? I mean, those are conversations that most people are not having. And so I think that a lot of people just, you used the word accidental a little earlier. I think there's a lot of people that just accidentally get into something,
Yes.
or they're told you should go do this, you should go to college and get this kind of a degree, and a lot of people are doing what other people told them to do, and that's not always bad. I mean, a lot of times people are getting good advice, other times they're not getting good advice. But the point is, I don't think most people have even connected with this concept. But the reason that it's important is that, and by the way, I can't take credit for the phrase. I got it from Michael Hyatt, and he got it from his wife, Gail. But this idea of when you lose your why, you lose your way, is that Your why is this underlying motivation. It is this many times undiscovered, you know, thing that hasn't been dug up yet and uncovered because it's just buried deep down in there somewhere. And if you don't take the time or don't get the help to actually think about that, then people are going to say, well, yeah, I want to do this for this reason or that reason, but there's probably something deeper. Because my question would be, okay, you want to make a little extra money. You could have done that 15 or 100 different ways. Why did you choose bookkeeping? Like, what is it about bookkeeping that drives you? And the bottom line is motivation. I mean, that's really what the why is all about, is when you connect with your why, you're motivated. When we set a goal, right? And a lot of times this idea of losing your why can be associated with goal setting and goal achievement. And so one of the things I really encourage people to do when they set goals is figure out, why do I want this goal? Like, what is my why behind this goal? But then there's this much larger why about, why am I here? What have I been put on this planet to do? I've been made in a particular way. I've been created in a particular way. Told all my kids, and I write them a letter every year for their birthday, and I tell them, you were created on purpose and with a purpose, and you're not an accident, and you're here for a reason, and let's help you discover what that's all about.
Yeah, and your job is to go and find that out and feel good about it, you know. And even if that means trying something and being like that didn't really work and then going in another direction, I think that's great.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I think experimentation and exploration are huge. And I think the better we can do to help our teenagers do that in their teen years and into their young adult years, the better. And you hear kids who go to college and they go in with a certain degree that they're pursuing, and then they decide they need to change and they feel bad about it. It's like, why feel bad? You just figured out you don't like that.
That's right.
That's a win as far as I'm concerned. And so I think, again, it all goes, Lynn, it all goes back to motivation. It all goes back to a sense of meaning and satisfaction and fulfillment. And there's just a lot of people that are wandering through life doing what they think they should do because somebody told them that that's what they should do. And they haven't really connected with this underlying fire that's in them somewhere that needs to just be uncovered.
And do you think having a coach or a mentor, and obviously having a parent who feels the same way, but not all of us were raised, that way or with that understanding. I think
Yeah.
I know for me and for a lot of us, we just kind of bump along in life, and here's a path that we sort of took. And looking
Yeah.
back at my life now, there's obviously some things we all would choose to do maybe differently, but then trying to figure out, well, how can I get back on track? How can I connect with what I'm doing? Do I really love my entrepreneur job that I've started? Maybe you do, but maybe there's something still inside of you that says something's just not right. Like I'm not either not enjoying it or I'm not quite there yet. I mean, what types of things would you, or how would you coach somebody, through that says, I did this job, I thought I wanted to do it. Something inside me is just, I'm losing my motivation.
Yeah. Yep. And losing their motivation is definitely tied back to the fact that I know there's something else. I know there's something more. I know there's something different, and I'm not satisfied with what I have. And a lot of times that goes back to the fact that I don't know what my why is. I haven't discovered what this is all about, and I've just been meandering through life. But I do. You asked the question about a coach or a mentor, and I would say coach, mentor, friend, parent, whatever the case is, because the biggest thing that coaches do is help people get stuff out of their head. I mean, that's what our job is as coaches, is to ask the questions, dig deep, help people wrestle with questions that they haven't wrestled with, help people think about what they haven't really thought about, help them go deeper than they have ever gone before, because there's so many things swirling around in our heads. But when we get to a good coach or a good mentor or a good friend who can ask us those really thoughtful, thought-provoking questions that draw it out of us, It's amazing what can happen when we say something out loud, right? Sometimes we say things and we think, oh my goodness, I'd never even thought about that before, right? Well, you have thought about it before, you just never said it out loud. And now that you've said it out loud, something has clicked in your brain. And so the idea of coaching, just, not necessarily you have to hire a coach, but the point is coaching, which is asking questions, facilitating a process of discovery and exploration. That is hugely helpful because most people are stuck in their heads. And by the way, there's so much swimming around in there that sometimes it's hard to get it clear and concrete. And so that's what we do as coaches is we help people get clarity, and clarity leads to confidence. Confidence leads to momentum, and momentum leads to results.
I love that. Had I thinking back to my own life, I like to do things in the fast lane. I talk fast, move fast, and like to do things pretty fast. So if I had had somebody like you coach me, I would be in a very different spot probably. But if you had said, "Oh, Lynn, what is your why? What do you like to do? What is your reason for starting this business?" I probably would have said something like, "I don't know, but I'm doing it as fast as I can, Joe."
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I feel like a lot of us are on that wheel. We're like
Oh,
either not
yeah.
necessarily searching and reaching, but we're like, oh, this, and they go, 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 and then really don't stop to be a little more thoughtful. Like I wish
Yes,
I had had a more thoughtful approach to my business. My business just happened and people just kept calling me and I kept saying yes. And then I'd hire somebody and then they would call me and say yes. I did very little marketing and I couldn't stop the train. I didn't know how, but I had no way to I didn't think at the time to stop the train that was going
sure.
on. And
Or you're
had
just
I
hanging on for dear life.
yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are doing that. There's a little season to entrepreneurship. You start out and you're all gung ho, year or two, three, and you're up there, going strong. And then about year 3 or 4, you start to think, wait, what am I doing? Am I making money? Like, how is this working? And you start thinking about processes, and that's a good time for people to look on on their own mind and try to get their mindset shift. But hiring a coach around that even before you start your business, but especially at that 2 or 3 year mark where you're just figuring out, okay, I've started this business and it's not working like I thought. I thought everybody was going to get on board and do this, or I didn't know it would take off so fast, and now I'm stuck without any processes and I can't even fathom how to get out of this. And you can create something that you can't get out of.
Yeah, sure.
You've worked with, lots of business owners, and what's one simple, I guess, like exercise someone could do to start maybe connecting to their why? If they're listening
Yeah.
to this and they're like, Lynn, I think I know what I'm doing, but I'm on this hamster wheel. I don't really know my why, and I don't know how to find it. Like, is there a way to reconnect with that, or one simple
Yeah.
exercise we could
I
do?
think there's I think there's two very simple things that I would encourage people to do. Number
Okay.
one is find a good assessment tool. And there's plenty of tools that are out there that are free or very inexpensive. Two that are my favorites are the Strengths Finder or the Clifton Strengths, which is by Gallup. I think
Okay.
it's $25. You can figure out what are your top five, what they call talent themes. I also love the Working Genius, which is from the Table Group and Patrick Lencioni. Um, and so those are two very inexpensive, very simple tools that begin to give you puzzle pieces. And that's what I like to call them. They're puzzle pieces. They're like, oh, okay, this is this. And you start putting together the puzzle as you start to discover, because what these assessments do is they help you uncover or connect with what are my natural talents. I'm going to not say strengths because in my book, strengths are developed functional skills, but your natural talents, the things you were just born with, right? We've all been born with different natural inclinations, different natural proclivities, the things that we're just good at. Like I love to learn. Like I'm a learner, and so in my Strengths Finder top five, one of them is called learner. And one of the things I love to do is I love to consume information. I love to read books. I love to watch videos. I love to take courses, and learn stuff, and then transmit that to other people. Like I love doing that. Nobody had to tell me how to do it. Nobody had to,
Motivate
encourage me to
you.
do it. I love it. It's just part of who I am. And all of us have these elements and these aspects of our nature that we were created with that are different than everybody around us. And so that'd be the first thing is just take one of these simple assessment tools and start to connect with some of these puzzle pieces that you haven't really been able to articulate before. The second thing is something that I did in my journey of discovery that was super, super helpful. And that is what I've started calling the achievement exercise. And so it's very simple. You take a sheet of paper or a computer screen or do whatever, keyboard, do whatever you want. But the point is, I want you to write down or type out the at least 10 or 15, but at least 10 of the most significant accomplishments in your life. Okay. And again, doesn't matter if it's significant to anybody else. What matters is it's significant to you. It's something you accomplished, something that you did, something you were involved with, some task that you completed. Like one of mine when I went through this was I was the captain of my baseball team in high school. Another one was, I started a Bible study at my job, and, there were these different things and different pieces that really I started listing all these things out. And then you go back. Okay. And what's important is that you have to go back. You can't try to do this at the beginning. Write them all out and then go back and look for the common thread. What is the common thread? And one of the things that I learned about myself, which I had never articulated before I did this exercise, was that I like helping people become all they were created to be. That was my aha moment. And that was one of the things that helped me connect with. Once I found coaching, I was like, that's it. Because that's what coaching is all about. Coaching is all about helping people move from where they are to where they want to be, to move from who they are today to who they want to be in the future. And so those two pieces, like just finding and putting together those puzzle pieces within a simple assessment tool. And the Working Genius is by far the most simple, the most clear, the
Okay.
easiest one to use. And then doing this achievement exercise, very powerful and really can help you connect with the inner motivations and the inner competencies and the inner inclinations. They're great stuff.
I love that. That is very powerful. So doing those two things. And when you talked about writing down your achievements, and just in my head, I was thinking of my achievements, and one of them was, well, I got my two kids through raised two kids through college, out of college, and into a job, and that's
Yeah.
that's big for us moms who, like that's a huge accomplishment. And when you said you found out your why was like helping people, that's definitely, if I were to put my list down, same thing. I like to help people go from A to B, how to get there,
Yeah.
and just real life experience, teaching them not necessarily like what is your why, but just like why are you stuck? Because they'll come to me usually when they're stuck. Maybe same with you, like they're kind of like, okay, I'm stuck here. I don't know if I want to do this bookkeeping company, or I did it, but it's draining me. They'll come with problems like that, and
Yeah.
just being able to have those tools. A lot of it has to be self-reflection. And it's interesting when you're a coach, and you've probably learned this just like I've learned this as a coach, is that people have to want to be coached. You have to be coachable.
Yes.
So you
Absolutely.
have to get your mindset shift. So somebody like me that's got kind of like, um, I'm pretty strong personality, and I like to just go forward with things. It never occurred to me to have a coach because I thought that I kind of, could wing it all on my own.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
finally later in life got a mentor is when everything clicked for me. I mean, from the first session, she had me look at the things I was saying or how I was saying them, and doing that reflection can be very powerful.
Oh yeah.
So having people do that mindset shift, and it would be so nice to be able to do that at a younger age, not looking back and going, oh yeah, I
Absolutely.
probably could have been let's see, a better person, but it's just like Felt more comfortable with myself had I learned some of those lessons earlier or from my coach. So, and I'm sure that we can change our why from time to time in our different seasons of life,
Sure.
right? Like
I think that's
where we're
very
going.
important.
Yeah,
Hmm.
my kids are off at college now, and I've sold my business, and my why is just, helping other people to see, um, to manage their bookkeeping company, and is that what they want to do? And I have
Yeah.
hired people, interns that came to me from the university, and they came and I was working with them, and they said, "Oh yeah, I don't want to do bookkeeping," and they left and changed their subject. And I thought, best thing to ever happen.
That's
I'm
right.
not upset at all. Like, no problem. Go do your English major because that's the best thing that could ever happen to them. And I agree that you have to go through trials and learn different things, and all of those are just the way we get through
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. And you talked about this a little bit. The word we use in coaching is called, we call it self-awareness. And so that willingness, first of all, and the ability, usually with help, to do that kind of self-reflection and to come to that place of self-awareness. I have also found that self-awareness is the number one factor in people being able to change, because you
Yes,
can't you can't change if you're not aware of where you are on the map. And
right.
so discovering and being willing to acknowledge and own where you are on the map is the place where it starts. and
Yeah,
and then, yes, all that self-discovery.
and sort of recognizing, like I like to tell people, like, where have you been? Because everybody's got baggage, and where are you now? And where do you want to go? And is this bookkeeping company that you have, is that part of your long-term plan? It may be part of your temporary plan to do something else later on, and that's fine. Let's figure out how to make it work in the short time period you have. Either it's to, make money for another venture, or to pass it on to your children, or just to grow it until you're in a place where your kids are out on their own and you can run it the way you want to. I know for a lot of solo bookkeepers, it's very hard for them to move from solo bookkeeper to a firm owner, like start to hire people. We talked about that, how they're just a little nervous about the leadership or how to hire people. So it's hard. And again, that's a mindset change, being able to recognize that you're a doer, doer, doer. You're just working every day in the books,
Yep.
being an operator, and trying to figure out how to move a bookkeeper from a solo bookkeeper to a firm leader and stop doing everything yourself. If you haven't had a lot of leadership training, that step is so scary that it
Sure.
sometimes never happens. I'll see them just say, "Nope, I'm good. I'm just going to stay here as a solo bookkeeper." And totally fine if that's where you are in your life. But if you want to grow and really make an impact, or grow your income so you can retire at a certain age, then the only way to make more money is to hire people under you and get more
Yeah.
clients. So
Yeah.
what changes do these solo bookkeepers need to have when they start hiring people to work under them? Like,
Yeah.
what do they need to, I guess, how do they move to that leadership position?
Yeah.
Any
I think
advice?
one thing, yeah, oh yeah. I think one thing that I would offer right away is that leadership is more about who you are than what you do. And I think that's really, really important for people to connect with and to understand, because while I do believe that there are skills and competencies to being a good leader, right? The ability to effectively delegate, the ability to clearly communicate a vision and where we're going, the ability to create processes and systems and all that. That those are all important. But I would say without a hesitation that who you are, your character, the person you are, and how you lead is far more important than what it is you do. And so, because here's the thing, leadership is about influence, management is about control. So, managers control things. They control inputs and outputs, they control processes, they control how things are done to get a specific output. But so in other words, managers make people do things, if I can just be very blunt about it.
Yeah.
Leaders get people to want to do things. They're the ones that inspire. And some people would say, oh, I'm not very inspirational. I'm not talking about a cheerleader. I'm not talking about somebody that's going to create a lot of hype. I'm talking about being the kind of person that people love to come work with. They love to be with you. They love to be around you because they feel cared for, they feel known, and they get clarity from you. So there's all these things. So I would say more than anything is concentrate on the type of person that you are as a leader and the character of your leadership before you worry about all the competencies. So that would be the place I would start. And then I think that really it's all about tackling your fears, because as most of us find out, the things we're afraid of aren't as bad as we thought they were going to be. We
Right.
just have to step in, and delegation is really very simple. You just have to learn the simple steps and follow through in doing it. The hard part is the mental part of letting go. The hard part is, well, nobody can do it as well as I can do it. And quite frankly, I've got a great book for you if your listeners, if they find themselves in that place, and it's called The E-Myth. The E-Myth and the E-Myth Manager are both two separate books that are really, really good in helping people move from that solo entrepreneurship stage to building a company. But again, I think the main thing I want to emphasize is character over competence. I'll take character over competence any day. I can teach somebody how to be a good leader fairly simply, but it's very hard to change a person's character. They have to recognize it, be willing to see what's in the mirror, and they have to be willing to make the changes that they need to make in order to effectively become the person whose influence people want to operate under.
Right. And we've all been around people who we enjoy being around. They're good listeners. They don't interrupt you, and they somehow make you feel important
Oh,
just
yeah.
by being in their presence. And you look forward to seeing them. And that is something that we should all strive for. But it's very
Yeah.
hard to do if you have not been raised that way, or you don't have that type of tendencies. But it's such good advice, because leadership doesn't start just when you hire people. Like we said, it starts the day you decide, I'm in charge and I want to manage people this way. I want to
Yeah.
be yeah, I want to be a good business owner. And it's probably the same thing with, like, when we decided to be parents. There wasn't really a good instruction book or anything, and were scared of everything. And what we were scared of, really, we just ended up doing it, right? And so a lot of times you do just have to step in and do it, and then recognize when you're not good at confrontation. I'm not good at confrontation. I don't like that. So if an employee would get upset, we had ways we would work with it, and I would just be like, "Let's talk about it. Like, what's going on?" But I
Yeah.
really didn't like that. I don't like asking
Yeah.
people for money, so I had somebody else call and do the accounts receivable. So it's easier to delegate things that maybe your personality, if you know you're not good at this certain thing, then kind of delegate that out and work
Yes.
work around it, I
Absolutely.
guess.
Absolutely. I think one of the key things about entrepreneurship, especially as you grow your business, is to figure out, what does the company need from me? What does the company need from me? Because sometimes people feel like, oh, I'm just dumping my work on somebody else. No, you're not. You are freeing yourself up to do what you do best. And by the way, that could still be bookkeeping, but you're going to free yourself up to serve more clients and help more people, whatever that is. But I really do think you got to get over that hump and realize that I have particular skills and talents, and bringing other people on board allows me to give people the things that I don't do well, the things that I don't enjoy. And it's not just about dumping what I don't like on somebody else. If you don't like making collection calls, you're probably not going to be very good at it. So might as well find somebody who loves doing that kind of stuff, because they're out there, right? And that's one of the biggest lies that small business owners buy into, is those people don't exist. And I'm like, yes, they do. They're out there. There's lots of people out there that are not like you. They don't have the same desires. They don't have the same skills. You need to find those people, and you can find them. You just have to go looking.
Yeah, hire to your weaknesses. I would always say, "Oh, I want to hire people that are, like, smarter than me," or some segment that I didn't know about. I'm like, "You
Yeah.
you go for it." But there are some people that maybe have an ego that want to keep people down. And that's when you move from, like you said, being a leader to just being a manager, so
Yes.
there is a big difference. So let's bring this all home. So imagine some of our listeners are running a small bookkeeping firm, or maybe it's just them. They've got a few team members, but they're feeling stuck. Maybe they don't even know what their why is. Let's map out like a mini roadmap to get them back to their why. We talked about how you should do the two things. You should do a type of assessment.
Yep. Assessments. Yep. The Working
Assessments,
Genius or the Strengths Finder. Those are two great ones.
and then write down a minimum of 10 of your top achievements that you that are
Mhm.
for you. Write down
Yes.
those, and then for the roadmap there, think about your mindset, and are you open to being a leader, to being coached? Are you coachable? Some people just aren't coachable and they know that. But you can be coachable if you
Yes.
if you find the right coach. You can
Yeah.
be coachable. So one of those, and then maybe trying to build a strong foundation for your business, and that could be in processes and building some type of framework. And we talk about this in our training circle, is that your own books need to be clean before you can tell other people how to build their clear vision as well. So making sure your own personal framework is in line and in order right there. And then we talked a little bit about leadership habits. Um, know how to lead. If you don't have experience there are lots of coaches and mentors and programs you can take to be a leader.
Hmm.
And I like the difference between the leader and the manager, because it's a huge difference. You're sort of managing
Hmm.
processes, and leader, you're sort of managing people. You're leading
Yeah.
them and guiding them.
Hmm.
And then I guess just trying to clarify your purpose would be bringing it home. Like, what is your purpose? Go think about that. How could we tell them should they try to write that down? Like, where are
Yep.
you going?
Yeah, I think writing out what is your purpose, and don't feel like you have to nail it the first time around. This is, I like to call it wet clay. Just write out a statement of what you think your deep down purpose and motivation in life is. Why am I here? And then what I would encourage you to do is find those puzzle pieces with the assessments, with the achievement exercise. And then the last thing which we didn't talk about, which is involve other people. And not in this case, I'm not referring to a coach. I'm talking about your spouse. I'm talking about your friends. I'm talking about your siblings. I'm talking about, people that know you and love you and care about you, because they see things about us that we don't see. And so
Yes.
getting other voices involved and starting to put all these puzzle pieces together, and then that purpose statement can become, I like to call it an iterative process of the more puzzle pieces I find, the more things that look like, oh, that goes together. Right now, all of a sudden, I may find a nuance in that purpose statement that I can change, but don't feel like you have to nail it right out of the gate. This is something that takes time and energy, and so
And it's sort
I've
of a
got a.
lifelong process. It could be,
Oh
especially if you're
yeah.
starting out here young, you're
Oh
like, it
yeah.
can move and shift a little bit. But how
Sure.
does what you're doing right now, like if you're running a bookkeeping, how does that fit into your life purpose? Like, does it fit into your life
Right?
purpose? And can we make it so that it's more enjoyable along the way? Is kind of the way I was thinking about it too. It's like, if
Yeah.
you've started a bookkeeping business and you're like, why did I start this business? I'm running ragged. I didn't think this was my purpose in life, was not to be just, working 80 hours a week and stressed about trying to get people's payroll
Yeah.
done. That does not sound like a very fun job. But trying to, I guess, put that in order so that, and that's one of the things that I help to do, is try to put that in order so that your lifelong goals are more achievable, or at least more pleasant to get there.
Yeah. It does. It makes a huge difference. Makes the ride a lot more fun.
Right, it makes the ride a lot more fun. I like that. Now, I know you said something about like asking other people, and my spouse has been amazing through this journey, because he really wasn't involved in it, because he does, he's in a totally different field, the medical field. But he would see me, growing and also getting frustrated and all of that. And I would sometimes, vent like we all do, and it's good to have somebody to bounce off of, right? So you don't, go to your
Absolutely.
employees and vent. But I remember one day I was like early in the morning. I'm a very morning person. I'm up. I don't even drink coffee, but I look like I've drank, 3 cups of coffee by 10 o'clock. And I remember telling my husband, I'm something, something, something. I did all this stuff. And I remember he just looked at me and said, Lynn, some people just can't take like all that cheeriness at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I remember thinking, yeah, you're right. It never occurred to me that like I thought I was being up and positive, but sometimes it can be too much that early in the morning. And that really set me off to really think about how I
Hmm.
was coming across, because I just thought everybody liked an upbeat, positive person all day long. But there are
Yeah.
some times when maybe that isn't the right way to deal out the cards.
Yeah. No, that's great help. We
So
all
I
need
know,
that help.
yeah, I know you've got a free resource for our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about the resource that you're offering today?
Yeah, and it encompasses a lot of what we talked about this morning. It's called the three-step guide to living the life you always wanted, and basically it encourages you, number one, to take a couple of these assessments and start finding those puzzle pieces and putting them together. Step number two is really spending time with people that matter in your life. If you're a person of faith, spending time with God, listening to what God has to say about who you are and how He made you, and really starting to gather data. And then we take all these puzzle pieces. And step three really is, how do I now start to pull together all these puzzle pieces? And I think the achievement exercise is another key piece. That's not in the guide, but that's a great thing to add on top of all of this. And then you just begin to iterate with this. Don't feel like you again have got to nail this right out of the gates. But that guide's available. I'm assuming, Lynn, you got a way to put that out there for your folks, and would love it if you could download. It's free, and just encourage you to take a stab at it. And if you need assistance, I'm glad to help.
Yeah, perfect. We'll include that link in the show notes, Joe Denner's website, and that's a great next step for people that are listening and thinking,
Mhm.
"Gosh, I really do want to know my why. I haven't thought about that, or I haven't really had time to plan that." And a lot of us are in a busy part of life that you just don't stop and take time to think about what is your why, because you're just so busy doing it. And like I said, I would have told you, well, I don't know, but I'm doing it as fast as I can, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So, well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. You've given us a
Thank
lot of
you.
good, yeah, leadership advice. And remember that we're more than just bookkeepers. We're business owners, mentors. We might be parents, and we're legacy builders. And I hope
Yes.
that today's episode inspired my listeners to start thinking about your why. So download that free resource from Joe and write it down. What
Yeah.
is your why in life? And does this bookkeeping business that you are building play into that? How does it play into that? Even if your life changes later, because clarity fuels that personal and professional growth. So thanks for listening to the Better Bookkeeper Show. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to follow and share it with your fellow bookkeepers who might like a little motivation today. And until next time, keep your books balanced and your purpose strong.